mean, if it was so bad that, like I said, it was 30 streets big, so we always were walking past his house, and it was so bad that when he wasn't outside, we would pass and someone would go get him, and he would come after us, and we would be like, oh boy, here he comes again. And we had never really talked to him though, but we would talk to his friends, and he was like I said, the leader of them all. And there was one day that me and my companion were teaching some of his friends on the side of the street, and he, it was amazing because we were teaching these kids, and like I said, in Mexico City, there's hundreds of people. So when a small group accumulates, it can immediately get just massive amounts of people. So we were teaching these two kids, and we're sitting down, and people would come and kind of linger. And so instantly this became a multitude, and because we were teaching the plan of salvation, and people would come, and we would notice, and they'd come out, and they would leave, or some people would linger and really get an interested look on them. And it's hard to kind of personalize it to 50 people or more. So we would kind of just talk, and we'd just trade turns. We would ask questions, but kind of just more talk and let people all have a chance to hear about our message. And I remember as we were talking, this guy, Christian, came up. And I remember kind of like grabbing my companion's leg and thinking, like looking at him and saying, are you seeing this? He's here. Christian's here. And he's going to ruin this lesson. And my companion, he was new. Like I said, he was a trainee. So he froze up like, oh no. And he kind of stopped in the middle of his sentence and passed the time over to me. And so I was like, all right, I got to set the example. And so I continued with why we were here on this earth. And I noticed he didn't have a look of disgust on him. He had a look of interest. And I kind of thought it was a dare for him to come over. I was like, oh, someone dared him to come over. But he stayed with that look. And we got to the point where we talked about this life, the life after this life, or the spirit world. And we told everyone that we know where we're going. And we testified. And I remember, I'll never forget the look on his face. And he raised his hand and he said, whoa. And he knew we were elders. So he says, elders, you mean to tell me that you know where we're going after this life? And I thought he was like going to just shove it back in our face and just say something weird or mean or something. And my companion, I kind of looked at him like, you want to answer? And he was like, no. So I was like, all right, I'll take it. And I said, yeah, we do know where we're going. And I tried to say with as much confidence to show him, you can't faze us, man. We're missionaries of God. And he says, how do you know that? And again, I thought, I don't know. I feel like this is just too good to be true that he's interested. I mean, after all, I've been here for 6 months. I don't believe this is happening. So again, I said, well, we know because we have, and we explained the Book of Mormon quickly, and then he was like, okay, how can I know for myself where I'm going after this life? And I said, you know what? This Sunday is General Conference. That's when our prophet and 12 apostles, that's when all to me, our most amazing leaders talk. And if you really are interested, Christian, you can come and watch. And it's only 2 hours. You can come and just mainly feel if it's true or not. So he says, okay, I'll be there. And he points at us, and we're like, okay, do you want us to pass by? He's like, no, I'll go. I know where it is. I've been there. Or I've like seen it on the side of the street. So we're like, okay, we'll see you there at 11 o'clock. So we go at 11 on Sunday. And to be honest, that was about 3 days later. So I had kind of forgotten. We had invited about 6 billion people. So I kind of had forgotten that we invited him. And so we were focusing on the investigators that had come and the members that would sit with them. And we made the point to put the investigators in the front of the chapel. And I'll never forget when we were outside talking with members and preparing for this session, when I look outside the gate of the church, and here comes Christian. And he had usually crazy hair, but he had kind of parted it and kind of came with this wrinkled, beat-up shirt, but he had tried to button it the best he could. And it was apparent that he had tried to look the best. And he had earrings all over his face, but he was looking good. And so we gave him this huge hug and said, "Oh, Christian, I can't believe you came." He said, "Of course I'll come." And he had this attitude of like, "Well, let's see what you got." So we put him right in the middle, right where he can see the best, right where he can hear the best. And I went upstairs and I heard it in English because I wanted to get out what I could of the conference. And my companion, who was Latino, stayed and listened to it in Spanish. And I just remember thinking this was the best conference I've ever heard. The music was perfect. The talks were, I can promise, were straightly directed towards him. I just felt amazing, and I thought, he's going to be baptized. But obviously I was nervous, thinking maybe he's got a pride issue, and I don't know. So I ran downstairs with the other elders. We met up with our companions, and we waited outside the doors for our investigators, and we talked with them. We put appointments, and we talked with members. We put appointments, and Christian still wasn't coming out of the door. And I remember asking my companion, "Did you not sit with him?" And he said, "No, I didn't sit with him. There wasn't room." And I sat with other investigators. I said, "Okay, did you see him?" And he said, "Yeah. As far as I know, he stayed the whole time." I said, "Okay." And so I went and peeked into the chapel, and it was pretty much empty by this time, and he was still sitting there. And he had his head down. And I remember turning to my companion and said, "Oh my goodness, he slept through the whole thing. He was asleep." And my companion was like, "No." I was like, "Yeah, he's asleep in there." And he's like, "I can't believe it. That was so amazing." And I looked back in, and he kind of had stirred. And so I was like, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just sitting there. I don't know. And I didn't really think that maybe he was just sitting there. It looked like he was asleep, which is a common occurrence in Mexico, I think, during the general conference. And so I was sitting outside with my companion. We were standing outside, and he left the chapel doors and came outside. And it was just us three. And he had big red puffy eyes. And it's like how I look when I cry. So I knew instantly something had touched him. And he came right up to me, and he had his head down. And he came up to me, and he put his finger in my chest. He knew my name. We had talked before, so he knew I was Elder Bodine, and he looks me in the eyes, and with tears coming down even more, he says, "Elder Bodine, what was that I just saw? Who were those men that spoke with such an energy," he says, "a power that I've never felt in my entire life?" He says, "What was that music that I was hearing? I felt as if angels were singing." And he cries even more. He says, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" And he points to my companion. "Why are all these people so happy? I've never seen such happy people in my life." I had no words. I was crying. And he says, "How can I know this is true?" Because I think it is. We testified right there to him that it was. We gave him a Book of Mormon and told him to read it. We put an appointment with him, but we couldn't wait. Next day was our P-Day, so we went straight to his house even on our P-Day. And he had read till Alma in the Book of Mormon. And the best part of that was that he testified to us in that lesson that it was true. We didn't even have to say anything. He said, "I've read enough that I know this book is true, and I'm willing to do anything to change." He had already taken out some earrings. We told him to take out a couple more, and he took them all out, and he threw them, I remember. And he threw them, and he said, no way am I putting another earring in. We invited him to church the next Sunday, and our church started at 7. He was there probably at 5:30. He was ready to go with the best looking clothes he's ever worn. He had his hair combed, and he didn't miss a church meeting after that. He got baptized within 2 weeks. We invited him to be baptized that first lesson, and he accepted like that. I don't think we needed to ask him. I think he would have asked us. But he, Christian, is without a doubt my hero. Because it's someone that completely changed his life. And I've never loved someone like I love Christian. I remember when I left that area, I hugged him until his eyes bulged out. And he cried. But I remember just thinking, this is a man. Someone that really knows and understands the atonement of Jesus Christ. He's someone that I can just look up to for the rest of my life. And because of him, he has friends that have been baptized, family members that have been baptized. He has a calling. He's my hero.